My name is Lin Ruoxi. I am just over 16 years old. My family has average conditions. My father and mother are ordinary wage earners. They live in the old district on the edge of the city. There is always a musty smell in the building. But I have known since I was a child that changing one's life with my brain is the only way. So when I received the record and withdrawal notice from the Shenghua University, my mother cried and said that this was Zuki's smoke. My dad patted my shoulder and said that as long as I could stand firmly, it would be worth it no matter how hard it was at home. The Chinese Academy of Santa Clinic, you will know that it is not an ordinary school by hearing the name. This place is the top-notch noble family in the country. It specializes in cultivating valuable children and says that even a student's family can buy our entire area. I am a civilian, and I can enter the title of a national test, which is a special case. Before I went in, I heard a lot of rumors, saying that Santa Chua is not only a school, but also a small society, with a very serious level inside, and it is even harder for ordinary people to come up with it than climbing to the sky. But I wasn't afraid. I had only one goal in my heart: to become a bully and change my fate. On the day of school, I was wearing the most beautiful clothes and carrying my newly bought bookcase from me. I stood at the entrance of the Shenghua University school, almost not shocked by the scene in front of me. The school door is pure European style, with marble columns standing on both sides, with complex patterns carved on them, and a row of luxury cars parked at the door, including Bentley and lastly, which can be topped by my family's income for several years. When students get off the car and wear a school uniform, they can see that their atmosphere is completely different. Some are arrogant, some are not obscene, and each one seems to be naturally superior. I looked down at the school uniform on myself. Although it was also from the school, I always felt that it was a bit inconsistent with me. I held my bag tightly and walked in with my head. From the campus to the distance, there are tall sycamore trees. The sun shines down from the leaves, with clean stone roads on the ground, and the teaching building far away is like a castle, making people breathless. I was stunned when someone suddenly hit my shoulder and almost stood firm. "You can't walk long?" A sharp sound came up. When I turned around, I saw that it was a girl with a light makeup. Her hair was burning into big waves. Her school uniform skirt became shorter, revealing a piece of her fair thigh. She was also following several girls, looking at me as if I were looking at something strange. "Sorry, I didn't pay attention." I apologized in a low voice, but it was the first day and I didn't want to cause trouble. "Didn't pay attention? This is Santa Chua, not your vegetable market. Do you understand the rules?" The girl rolled her eyes. Her language was full of ridicule. The person beside her also laughed, and the sound was as harsh as a knife that shaved my ears. I gritted my teeth, and turned around and wanted to leave without saying a word. But she obviously didn't plan to let me go, so she reached out to hold me and looked up and down. "You are a freshman, right? Look at your soreness. Wouldn't you be the civilian who came in by special recruitment, right?" As soon as this came out, everyone around them read it, some chanting their private words, and some laughing out loud. I felt a scent on my face, but I still had a strong decorative look. I looked up at her and said, "So what?" The record of Shenhua is a result, not a family background. "Yeah, my mouth is quite hard." She sneered, approached me, and said in a low voice, "Little sister, I would like to remind you that in Santa Crazy, success is a fart, and background is the hard truth. People like you are just for us to accompany you, do you understand?" I clenched my fists, and it seemed like I had been caught in my heart, but I still held it back and didn't argue with her. I know that quarrel with her now will only make me more difficult. I leaned over her and walked towards the teaching building without looking back. I could still hear their laughter behind me, as if I was mocking my overestimation. When I arrived at the classroom, I found a back seat and sat down, put down the book with my head down, and tried to calm myself down. People in the classroom continued to come in, and most of them were chatting in groups of 3 or 5. The topic was nothing more than who bought a new boat and who went to a luxury store to buy it. I sat alone, looking out of place. At this moment, a girl who was smiling particularly furiously left and sat down next to me. Hey, hello, my name is Su Xiaoqing. I just saw you at the door. Is that Lu Man bullying again? She became familiar with her eyes as soon as she opened her mouth, and her eyes were bright and she looked very good. Lu Man? That's the girl just now? I was stunned for a moment, but I didn't expect that she would take the initiative to talk to me. Yes, she is a second-year high school student. She is a real estate student at home. She is particularly eye-catching and always likes to bully freshmen, especially special admissions like you. Su Xiaoqing curled her lips and said in a low voice, but if you ignore her, she will just talk badly. She won't dare to do it if she really acts. Thank you for your reminder. I smiled reluctantly, and felt a little uncomfortable. It's okay. For ordinary people like us who understand a clan, we have to take care of each other. Su Xiaoqing patted my shoulder, and there was a sense of joy in his language. Yes, what's your name? It's pretty brave to see you just met Lu Man. My name is Lin Ruoxi. I'm not there yet. I just don't want her to think I'm so bullying. I said, lowering my head and smiling. Lin Ruoxi, your name is so good. We will be friends in the future. If you have anything to do, I will be very informed. I know all the gossips about Shenghua. Su Xiaoqing slapped her chest, full of confidence in her face. I looked at her familiar appearance and felt a little warm. At least in this cold school, I can meet someone who is willing to talk to me. Next, Su Xiaoqing began to talk to me about the various rules of Shenghua. For example, the canteen has a noble and civilian area. The cuisine in the noble area is a 5-star hotel standard, and civilian areas can only eat ordinary set meals. For example, the school's class-based exam will determine whether you will enter an elite or ordinary class in the next 3 years, which will directly affect your journey after graduation. Separate test? It sounds very important. I glanced at me, my heart a little nervous. That's right, this is the key to Shenhua. The exam results directly determine your status in the school. Students in elite classes either enter top universities or are directly arranged by their family to enter core enterprises. Ordinary classes are. Haha, it's basically a waste of time. Su Xiaoqing was very proud of his voice, and his language was helpless. But I heard that this exam is not simple. Some people say that there are cats in it, and the results are not entirely dependent on the strength. Cat? What does it mean? I was stunned, bewildering that there was a story behind this. Oh, I don't know the specifics. Anyway, I heard that some people's performance is obviously not good, but they can enter the elite class. Maybe they have money at home. Su Xiaoqing said in a low voice, with a flash of disdain in her eyes, but don't worry, you look very smart, you will definitely be able to do well in the exam. I clicked my head, and I didn't say anything, but I remembered it in my heart. Since class segment exams are so important, I must not take them lightly. If there is anything unfair, I have to prepare early. The first class is the class of the class teacher, Mr. Zhang. He is a middle-aged man in his 40s. He wears glasses and is gentle in his language, but there is a sense of righteousness in his eyes. As soon as he entered the classroom, he took a look and began to talk about the school rules and learning arrangements of Shenhua. When he talked about the class subscription exam, he deliberately paused for a while and his language became more serious. Students, class-subsidized exams are a tradition of Christmas and the starting point for you in the next 3 years. I hope everyone can do their best and show their true skills. Success not only represents your efforts, but also represents your value. Teacher Zhang said, his eyes swept across the whole class, and finally stopped on me, as if he had a special look at me. I felt a little relieved when the teacher might know my background, but he did not show any prejudice. After class, I took the initiative to find him, wanting to ask about the specific details of the exam. Teacher Zhang, I want to know the content and evaluation standards of the class subsidiary test. I stood at his desk and asked with some urgency. He raised his head and smiled. Lin Ruoxi, right? I know you are a special admissions student, so it is not easy to come to Shenhua. The test content is mainly about extralingual and comprehensive abilities tests. The evaluation criteria are open, but he decided to do it and his language was low. I would like to remind you that the exam is not only about knowledge, but also about mentality. The environment of Shenhua is very complicated, and you have to learn to protect yourself. Protect yourself? Teacher, you said. I didn't understand very much, but I don't know what he said. It's nothing. It means not to be disturbed by the outside world and be focused on preparing for the exam. Teacher Zhang refused to say anything more. I clicked and left, but I always felt that he had no deep meaning in my heart. After returning to the dormitory, I started to read the books and revise them. My brain kept thinking about the cat that Su Shaoqing said and the reminder from Teacher Zhang. The place of Santa Crazy is indeed not as simple as the surface. Several days passed, and I gradually adapted to the rhythm of Shenhua. Although I was still looked at by some noble students with different eyes, with Su Shaoqing beside me, I was at least not so lonely. She is indeed very informed and often tells me some school gossip, such as whom she loves, who has a problem with her business, and also mentions a senior student named Gu Chenfeng, who is said to be a top tycoon in Shenhua. She is so hard that her family background is so hard that students dare not mess with him. Gu Chenfeng, he is a legendary figure in Santa Claus. I heard that he has never been reluctant to take the class test, and was directly assigned to the elite class. Su Shaoqing was gnawing on the apple and gossiping with me, but others are very cold and basically don't come with others, as if she is born to be arrogant. Default? That's too unfair. Hey, this is the case with Shenhua. People with great families can take any advantage of anything. Su Shaoqing said helplessly, but don't think too much. Just work hard to get the exam and care about other people's fucking. I didn't say anything, but I was secretly determined in my heart. Whether there was a decision or not, I had to pass the elite class by myself, so that civilians could stand at the highest point. At this moment, the dormitory door was suddenly knocked, and Su Shaoqing ran to open the door. When she came back, her face looked a little strange. She said to me in a low voice, "Someone just sent a paper that said it was for you, and it reads 'Be careful before class test.'" What? Who gave it? I was stunned. When I took the paper, I saw that it was indeed a handwritten word. The pen was sloppy and I couldn't tell who wrote it. I don't know, the person who sent the paper ran very fast, I didn't see clearly. Su Shaoqing shook her head, with a little concern in her eyes. "Ruoxi, who have you offended recently? This paper looks like a threat." I stared at the paper, my heart was full of pain, but I still insisted, "It's nothing, it may be who's a bad drama, don't think too much." That's what I said, but I know in my heart that this is definitely not a simple malicious plot. The water of Shenhua is deeper than I thought. Before the class division test began, I was already targeted. Who is behind this? That night, I was lying on the bed in the dormitory, turning around and unable to sleep, and I was still holding the paper in my hand. Although the characters are sloppy, the 3 words "be careful" seem to be engraved in my brain and can't be shaken off no matter how hard it is. Su Shaoqing was sleeping beside me, and she had already breathed evenly. She was so quiet that she could only hear the occasionally born birds outside the window. I stared at the ceiling, my heart seemed to be blocked by something, it was awful. The place of Santa Claus is indeed not the place I imagine that it can be achieved by working hard. It wasn't long before I felt an invisible pressure, as if I was about to crush me. The next morning, I got up with dark circles on my face. When Su Shaoqing saw my condition, Lima came over and asked, "Ruoxi, you didn't sleep well last night, are you still thinking about that paper?" I smiled reluctantly and said, "It's nothing, I just have a little bit of acquaintance. It'll be fine after a few days." She clearly didn't believe it, and looked at me with her eyebrows and said, "Don't force yourself. That paper is not a good omen at first glance. Who have you really offended recently? For example, Lu Man, didn't she bother you on the first day? It shouldn't be her." I lowered my head and sipped my water, and quickly read through the recent incident in my brain. It's okay to bully people like her. I don't think it's like her style. I feel too, silly. Yes, Lu Man never hides things in his work, and likes to humiliate people. Su Shaoqing pointed a little, and then pressed a low voice, but there are many people hiding in the dark in places like Shenhua. You should be careful when you go out in the future, don't walk alone at night, and call me any time if you have anything. I clicked, but my heart was still heavy. After breakfast, we went to the classroom together. On the way, I deliberately kept my mind and always felt that someone was sneaking around me, but every time I turned around and looked at me, I didn't find anything. Maybe it was a psychological effect. I comforted myself, but the anxiety in my heart became more and more intense. When I arrived at the classroom, I sat down and heard a few classmates in the front row discussing what they were talking about, and glanced at me from time to time. I pretended not to pay attention to the dress, and turned the books down, and my ears were waiting to hear them. Did you hear it? It seems that someone has already obtained the topic of the class subdivided exam in advance. A boy said in a low voice, with a little bit of excitement in his language. Really and false? Who is so awesome, can you get the problem? A girl next to her asked in surprise. I don't know, I heard it anyway. It may be an opening for some people, but... The boy sneered, and then reiterated, but ordinary people like us should still be just a real revision, don't expect such a good thing. When I heard this, my heart skipped a beat, and my hand holding the pen was tightening. Is the topic ejaculated in advance? Isn't this the cat sensation that Su Shaoqing said before? If students really make trouble behind the scenes, then this class-subsidized test will not be fair from the beginning. I bit my lip and decided to go to Su Shaoqing to ask after class to see if she knows more inside information. After the next class, I pulled Su Shaoqing to the corner of the corridor and asked her in a low voice, Shiqing, you said before that there were cats in the class test. Now that I heard the questions that were leaked, is it true? She was stunned, then raised an eyebrow and said in a short voice, I'm not sure, but this is not unusual in Sanskrit. Students will help others, especially Chairman Zhao Yan, who is very powerful, and is very shocking to hear that they can directly affect the results of the exam. The topic of exposing this kind of thing is probably not related to them. Zhao Jian? I squinted my eyes, and a warm and Wenyan image appeared in my brain. I have seen this person once. He was a senior who represented the students in the classics. He was gentle and spoke very rationally. He didn't look like a person who could fuck such things. Yes, it's him. Don't look at his appearance as a good student, and there are many tricks behind his back. Su Shaoqing curled his lips, his lingering disdain, many unfair things in Shenhua are related to him. If you see him in the future, leave the distance, don't be targeted by him. I clicked the head and remembered the name in my heart. If there is really a problem with the class division test, then Zhao Jian is likely to be the behind-the-scenes driver. I can never let my efforts be in vain. No matter what the hell is behind me, I have to find it out. In the next few days, I began to revise more desperately, soaking in the library every day to the door, and writing various knowledge points and solutions in my notebook. Seeing that I was working so hard, Su Shaoqing couldn't help but complain, Ruoxi, are you going to memorize all the books in the library? If you continue like this, you will have to be exhausted before the exam. There is no way. I don't look like some people who can take the best, they can only rely on themselves. I smiled bitterly and kept the problem down. Hey, you are so stubborn, as if you are a bull. She sighed and then took out a bottle of milk from her bag and stuffed it to me. Drink some, replenish your energy, don't force yourself too tightly. I took the milk and my heart warmed up, and my mouth was still hard. Don't worry, I'm responsible. At this moment, a person suddenly walked into the entrance of the library. A tall man wearing school uniforms exuded a different atmosphere from the crowd. As soon as he came in, the air in the library seemed to be tightened, and many people secretly looked up at him, with awe in their eyes. I looked up and my heart was shocked. Isn't this the Chenfeng that Su Shaoqing said? He didn't look at anyone else, so he walked directly to the shelf, pulled out a book with his hand, leaned against it and flipped it over. That cold look seemed to ignore the people around him at all. I lowered my head and continued to do the problem, but my brain couldn't help but wonder, who is this person? Why are everyone so afraid of him? Hey, Ruoxi, what are you looking at? Su Shaoqing came over and looked through my video. Lima said in a short voice, that's Gu Chenfeng. I told you, the top tyrant of Shenhua, with a very strong background. I know, I just didn't expect that real people are colder than news. I replied in a small voice, and my eyes still couldn't help but glance at him. That's right. I heard that he never comes with others, as if he is born superior. But his achievements are really great. Every time he takes the exam, he scores well. No one can shake his position. Su Shaoqing said, with a little admiration in his language. I didn't say anything anymore, and I felt a little dissatisfied. So what if you have a full score? If I can get into the elite class, I will be able to stand in his position one day. Thinking of this, I kept on doing the problem and decided not to care about these leisurely things. But there are some things that you can't hide just by wanting to. A few days later, the days of class-based exams became closer and closer, and the atmosphere in the campus became increasingly tense. Just 3 days before the exam, I received an anonymous letter in the dormitory. There was no name written on the envelope, only one line of words, if you want to know the truth, I will see it in the old library at 9 o'clock in the evening. When I looked at the lines, my heart beat a little fast. The old library is a deserted place in Shenhua. I heard that it had been closed long ago and no one went there at all. That place is very colorful. Who would ask me to go there in the middle of the night? It is obvious that it is not right, but I can't help but wonder, is it related to the cats who are taking the class test? I hesitated for a long time, and finally decided to tell Su Shaoqing. When she saw the letter, her face changed. Ruoxi, don't go, this looks like a trap. What if anyone wants to harm you? I know there is a risk, but if I don't go, I may never know the truth. I gritted my teeth and said calmly, Yu Qing, don't swear me, I must go and see. That won't work, it's too dangerous. She was anxious and grabbed my hand, or what if I go with you, we'll take care of you whenever there is something wrong. I looked at her worried eyes and felt warm, but I still shook my head. No, it's really dangerous, I can't get tired of you. You stay in the dormitory, if I haven't come back at 10 o'clock, you go and find the teacher to help you. She wanted to say something, but I had made up my mind and no chance to give her any more rebellion. At 8:30 in the evening, I put on my coat, took my cell phone and a small flashlight, and quietly left the dormitory. The Shenhua campus at night was so quiet that it was dim and yellow. The wind blew over the trees and rustled. I felt a little hairy in my heart, but I still walked towards the old library with my head. On the westernmost side of the campus, the old library is an old building with broken doors and windows. The surrounding grass is full of grass, looking like a haunted house. I stood at the door, took a deep breath, and pushed open the squeaking wooden door. It was pitch black inside, only the light of the flashlight illuminated a small area, and there was a musty smell in the air, which made people feel very uncomfortable. Is anyone? I shouted in a small voice, and the sound was a little strange when I heard it. No one responded. I held the flashlight tightly and walked slowly, my heart beating faster and faster. At this moment, a sound of footsteps suddenly came from the entrance of the stairs, light and slow, as if trying to explore something. I turned over suddenly, shining with the flashlight, only a blurry shadow was seen, quickly disappearing into the darkness. Who is there? I shouted with a harsh voice, and the sound was a little bit terrifying. Still no one answered, but I clearly felt that someone was staring at me in secret. The feeling of being visualized made me feel uncomfortable. I gritted my teeth, decided not to go deeper, and turned around and walked towards the door. But when he walked to the door, a low voice suddenly came from behind. Lin Ruoxi, stop. I stopped suddenly, my heart seemed to jump out, and when I turned around, I found that it was the wind of the sky. He was wearing a black coat and stood in the dim light, with no expression on his face, but his eyes were as bright as he could see through people. Why are you here? I was stunned for a moment, and my brain was in chaos. I should ask you this question. He opened his mouth coldly, with a little impatient voice. You run to this place in the middle of the night. Are you afraid of your life? I received a letter saying that there is the truth about the class subscription exam here. I replied subconsciously and asked later, what about you? Why are you here? He didn't answer directly. His eyes swept over the envelope in my hand and said lightly, it seems that someone deliberately brought you here. Do you know that the old library has long been listed as a forbidden area? When you come here at night, no one will know if something happens. I felt a glimpse of my heart and I understood what he meant in an instant. Someone deliberately cheated me here, maybe because he wanted to harm me, or just wanted to scare me. I bit my lip and asked, then why did you show up here? Could you also receive the letter? Gu Chenfeng sneered and did not answer positively, but said, I will pay attention to you, don't care about anything you should. The water in Shenghua is very deep, and you can't move it alone. But if there are really problems with the class test, I can't sit still and ignore it. I replied stubbornly, although I was a little scared, but I still didn't retreat. He glanced at me, and a complex feeling flashed in his eyes. He then turned around and left, and said, as long as you do, but don't expect me to save you a second time. I stood there in a daze, watching his back disappear into the darkness, and my heart was filled with scent. What does he mean? Save me a second time? Could it be that he came to me tonight? But why did he help me? We don't know at all. I didn't have time to think too much, so I left the old library tightly. When I returned to the dormitory, Su Shaoqing was not asleep yet. Seeing me coming back safely, Lima relaxed his voice, Ruoxi, you are back. Why, have you discovered anything? I slammed my head and roughly said what I had just done, especially mentioning Gu Chenfeng. After hearing this, her eyes widened, what? Jade Chenfeng actually helped you? Didn't he ignore the idle things now? I don't know why he happened, anyway, this is getting stranger. I rubbed my son's vagina and felt my brain explode. Ruoxi, I think you shouldn't check it out again. It's obvious that this matter is not something we can touch. Su Shaoqing said worriedly, we can't stand what Big Shots want he really messed with. I know, but I can't retreat. I gritted my teeth and looked firm. If there is really a shady story in the class test, I must reveal it, otherwise my efforts will be in vain. Su Shaoqing looked at me, sighed and didn't tell me anymore, just said, then be careful and tell me any time if you have anything to do. In the next 2 days, I still repeated myself as usual on the surface, but I began to pay attention to the people and things around me in private. I found that the Students' Club have been very active recently, and they often gather together to discuss something, and occasionally look at me a few times. I felt more and more uneasy in my heart, and I always thought they were secretly ignoring something. The night before the exam, I was recreating in the library until very late. When I was about to return to the dormitory, I passed by an empty classroom and heard a low voice in it. I stopped and quietly approached the door. I heard a familiar voice saying, this exam will make Lin Ruoxi unable to enter the elite class, otherwise she will be in trouble. I was shocked. This sound was clearly from Zhao Jian. He is indeed pointing at me. Another voice continued, don't worry, the topic has been adjusted, and her achievements will never be matched. I bit my teeth tightly and almost couldn't help but ask them, but reason told me that it was not the time now. I quietly retreated, and anger ignited in my heart. Since they want to play with the sun, I will play with them to the end. I must find the evidence and uncover the truth about this exam. On the day of the exam, I sat in the exam and looked at the questions on the test paper. Sure enough, I found that some questions were completely oversight and were not content within the normal range at all. I sneered, and my heart became more calm. Zhao Jian, do you think this will defeat me? Then you underestimate me too much. I took a deep breath, held the pen tightly, and began to answer questions one by one. No matter what, I have to do my best to let them know that civilian students are not easy to bully. After the exam, I walked out of the exam and ran into Zhao Jian head-on. He looked at me, with a meaningful smile on the corner of his mouth, and said lightly, Lin Ruoxi, how did you do the exam? I hope you are not too disappointed. I looked into his eyes and replied faintly, "I shouldn't be disappointed." His face changed slightly, but soon he regained his smile and turned away. I looked at his back and swore in my heart that the battle just began. A few days after the exam, the atmosphere at the Shenghua campus was more intense than usual. Everyone is according to the results of the class division test. This not only concerns the class allocation in the next 3 years, but also directly determines your status in the school. I was so dressed as if nothing happened on the surface. I still went to the library to recreate every day as usual, but there was a big stone hanging in my heart, which might be smashed down at any time. Zhao Yan's smile on that day always swayed around my brain, giving me a sense of ominous premonition. Su Shaoqing has been with me for the past few days, and she comforted me from time to time. "Ruoxi, don't think too much, the exam is over, and the results cannot be changed no matter how hard you work. You must be fine." She looked at her face happily when she said, but I could see that she was worried in her eyes. "Shaoqing, thank you, but I have so many in my heart." I smiled reluctantly, lowered my head and continued to flip the book. "In fact, I am not chasing, I just want to keep myself busy and not think about it." The night before the results were announced, I turned around and couldn't sleep in the dormitory, and my brain was full of what Zhao Yan said on the day of the exam. His words, "I hope you are not too disappointed," fell in my heart like a thorn, making me unable to calm down no matter how hard it was. 2 o'clock in the morning, I finally couldn't help but get up, put on my coat, sneak out of the dormitory, planning to go to the campus for a walk and get some air. The Shenhua campus at night was strikingly quiet. The dim lights of the road lights were on the stone road, and occasionally the wind blew over them, and the leaves were rustling, making people furry. I wrapped my coat tightly and walked slowly along the path, but my brain was still a mess. When I walked to the library, I suddenly heard low voices coming from far away, and the sounds continued, but I could hear several boys talking. I felt nervous, and subconsciously let my feet go, hid behind a big tree, holding my breath and listening to what they said. One of the sounds sounded very familiar. After carefully identifying them, my heart skipped a beat. It was a shark. The results have been changed. Lin Ruoxi is determined not to be able to enter the elite class this time. Zhao Yan's voice was low and he was proud of it. Even if she did well in the exam, I would have decided on the data. "Brother Jian, will you feel troublesome when you are discovered in this matter?" Another voice sounded a little hesitant, like his follower. "Discover? Who dares to say it? Teachers have been given a long time ago. Who would have been against me for a civilian student?" Zhao Yan sneered, his lingering was full of disdain. "Besides, this is the rules of Shenhua. If your family background is not good, it will be useless no matter how good your performance is. Lin Ruoxi wants to turn over and make a dream." I hid behind the tree, and felt my heart full of fire. My fists were clenched tightly, and my nails were almost pinching into my flesh. Sure enough, the test results were not determined by practical skills at all, they were all behind the scenes. I bit my teeth and forced myself to calm down. Now I'm going to ask them out and they'll only be shocked. I have to find a way to get the certificate and expose this matter. They chatted for a few more words, and the sound went farther away. Only then did I walk out from behind the tree, my heart beating like a drum. I know that this is my last chance. If I don't catch it, don't talk about entering the elite class, my days in Santa Craft will only be more and more difficult. After returning to the dormitory, I didn't sleep all night and kept thinking about how to get the certificate of their change. The next morning, the day of the announcement of the results finally arrived. The school posted the results of the class division in front of the announcement column, which surrounded a large group of people, and comments were heard one after another. Su Shaoqing and I rushed into the crowd and found my name. It was as expected, my total was very low, even the ordinary class was strong, not to mention the elite class. How is this possible? Su Shaoqing exploded at a glance, and her face turned red. Ruoxi, although the topic you said on the day of the exam was difficult, but you answered it still. Why is it such a score? I didn't say anything, just stared at the numbers on the announcement column, and my heart hurt like I was cut by a knife. I know that this is not my real achievement, this is the work of Zhao Jian. Several classmates looked at me around, with ridicule and sarcasm in their eyes. Someone muttered in a low voice, special admissions are special admissions, and no matter how hard they work, it is useless. I bit my lip tightly, ignored those words, and turned to Su Xiqing, help me, I want to find a certificate to prove that this result is fake. Certificate? Why do you look for it? She was stunned, and then she lowered her voice, you shouldn't want to go to the students to steal information, right? That's too dangerous. I have to try whether it is dangerous or not. I looked at her with a calm look, you have a clear message, please listen to me. Where is the student association office? Are there any loopholes that can be entered? Su Xiaoqing looked at me, hesitated for a long time, and finally sighed, okay, I'll help you, but you have to agree to me. If you have any trouble, please withdraw immediately and don't force me. I clicked the head and felt very grateful. The next day, Su Xiaoqing used all her human corpses and finally heard that the student office was in the 3 levels of the administrative floor. Usually, only Zhao Yan and a few core members could enter, but every night at around 9 o'clock, there would be an ant who would go to the swipe. At that time, the door would open shortly, which might be my only chance. At 8:30 that night, I wore a black coat and a hat, and quietly came to the administrative building. The lights in the building were dim, and occasionally a patrol security guard walked past. I hid in the corner, my heart beating very quickly. At 9 o'clock, I saw an aunt who was carrying a cleaning car into the building. After a few minutes, she indeed went to the 3rd floor and opened the door of the student meeting. I took a deep breath and took advantage of the empty space she had gone into, quickly slipped into the building, and slowly approached the office with the wall. The door was fine, I could hear the sound of the vacuum cleaner coming from it. When my aunt turned around and cleared the other side, I gritted my teeth and pushed the door open, flashed in, and hid under a table. The light in the office was very dark, and only the computer screen on the desk was lit up with a faint light. I held my breath and heard my aunt's silence. After confirming that she had not noticed me, I carefully crawled out and came to my computer. The screen is displayed on the screen and requires a password. My heart sank and I tried several common digital combinations, but the result was completely wrong. At this moment, the door suddenly came to the sound of footsteps, not the slow pace of the ant, but the rapid and powerful. I was shocked, turned off the screen and hid back under the table. The door was pushed open, and the one who came in was Zhao Jian. He was wearing a school uniform, holding a piece of paper in his hand, and walked to himself, the scores have been changed almost this time, so no one will doubt it. I heard it so much that my heart was about to jump out of my hands, sweating all over my palms. He walked to the table, put down the documents, then opened the computer, and entered the password. I hid under the table, took a sneak peek, and remembered the several keys he had hit. Fortunately, the table was big, so he didn't find me. He just took a few simple operations and left with the documents. I dared to climb out and my heart was beating wildly, but I also knew that this was a rare opportunity. I opened the computer again, entered the password I just remembered, and it was indeed unblocked. The screen shows the results database for the class test, and the original scores and modified scores of each student are clearly recorded. I found my name. The original score was obviously very high and I entered the elite class, but the modified score was particularly low. I bit my teeth tightly, took out my phone from my pocket, and quickly took a few photos as evidence. At this moment, I heard my footsteps outside the door, and I panicked, turned off my computer and hid under the table. This time, Aunt Baoyu came in. She hummed a small song and started mopping the floor. I held my breath and waited until she cleared and left before she dared to slip out of the office. When I returned to the dormitory, I felt like I was slacking off, sitting on the bed and gasping for breath. Seeing my side-like appearance, Su Xiaoqing was so shocked that her face turned pale. Ruoxi, are you okay? Why did you do this? I got the certificate. I sent her cell phone to her, and her voice was a bit slight. The results were really changed. My original score was able to enter the elite class, but Zhao Yan deliberately lowered it. She looked at the photo and her eyes widened. Oh my God, this is too much. We have to expose this and not let them be so bullying. Yes, but I have to find a suitable time. I gritted my teeth and started calculating the next step in my brain. The next day, I found Teacher Zhang, told him the whole story, and showed him the photos. After hearing this, his face became particularly serious. After a long time of silence, he said, Lin Ruoxi, you are doing very dangerously, but you are also brave. I will help you with this, but you have to prepare mentally. The power behind Zhao Yan is not simple. Revealing the truth may make you offend many people. Teacher, I'm not afraid. I looked into his eyes and said with a calm voice, I came to Shenghua to change my fate. If I accept this unfairness, what else do I mean? Teacher Zhang clicked a little, and there was a hint of relief in his eyes. Okay, then I will arrange a public discussion competition for the whole school to give you the opportunity to tell the truth. I will convince the school leader that this is a fair conversation between students and ordinary students, but you have to be prepared, so that Zhao Yan will not easily recognize it. I was shocked, and I didn't expect Teacher Zhang to support me so much. I replied first and began to prepare the competition materials and sort out all the unfair phenomena of the certificates and exams into a detailed report. Su Shaoqing also helped me a lot. She heard from all over the world and collected more news about the performance of students' activities. Although most of them were listening, it also provided me with a lot of ideas. The day of the discussion competition finally came, and all the teachers and students gathered in the ceremony, and the atmosphere was as if it was about to explode. As the representative of the student association, Zhao Jian stood on the stage, as if he was gentle and vulgar, as if he had never taken this statement seriously. And I, as the representative of ordinary students, wore the simplest school uniform and stood on the other side. Although I was tight, I was more determined. After the discussion began, Zhao Yan said first, and he said in a very elegant manner, the class-level exams at the Shenghua University have always been fair and just, and the results reflect the students' true level. If someone is not satisfied with the results, they can only explain that their efforts are not enough, not that there is a problem with the system. There was a lot of listening to the audience, and many valuable students agreed. I sneered, and when I was speaking, I took out the prepared certificate directly, and the language was calm but powerful, fair and just. Then why did my original achievements clearly enter the elite class, but were changed to the level of the ordinary class? These data screenshots were found in the Student Association's computer, and the traces of changes in the results were clearly recorded on it. I projected the photo onto the big screen, and it was a silence in the audience. Zhao Yan's face finally changed, but he quickly calmed down and said firmly, "These photos are made of evil, Lin Ruoxi. You have used all these methods to gain sympathy. It's ridiculous. Damn it. Then do you dare to ask the technical teacher to check this computer and see if there are any records in the database to modify them?" I looked at him directly, without any retardation. His eyes flashed, but he still swore, "This is the internal information of the Student Association. What should I say to you? Besides, how could you, a civilian student, enter our office? This itself shows that you have a problem." The discussions in the audience grew louder and bigger, and some people began to doubt Zhao Yan's words. I took a deep breath and continued, "I did go to the student office because I heard someone was thinking about what was changed to a performance. I knew it was risky, but I didn't choose. If the system of Santa Crazy is really fair, why don't you dare to make data public? Why can't the efforts of ordinary students never compare to the bonus of family background?" As soon as this happened, many ordinary students in the audience started to snore, and some even applauded. Zhao Yan's face became increasingly difficult to see. He gritted his teeth and said, "The rules of Santa Claus are not simply considered. Family background, and comprehensive abilities are part of the consideration. Lin Ruoxi doesn't understand these things, and you only use this kind of little thing to attract attention. It's really sad. It's sad that you, Zhao Yan." At this time, a low voice suddenly echoed from the audience, and everyone turned around and found that the person talking was actually Gu Chenfeng. He was wearing a school uniform, standing in the crowd, his eyes were cold and his language was unquestionable. I looked at Lin Ruoxi's evidence, and there was indeed a problem with the data. As a member of Santa Chua, I don't want the reputation of the school to be tarnished by such unfair things. Zhao Yan, if you really feel guilty, open the data so that everyone can see the truth. As soon as Gu Chenfeng said this, the audience exploded. No one expected that people like him who never competed with the campus would come forward to speak to me. Zhao Yan's face was blue and his lips moved, and he couldn't say anything counterattacked. Finally, under the pressure of the school leader, he had to agree to open the database. The technical teacher checked the computer on the spot and found that a large number of modified records were found. Not only was it my achievements, but the scores of several other ordinary students were also reduced. The truth was revealed, and there was anger in the audience, and many people began to point out the practices of the student association. Zhao Yan lowered his head, and his face was hard to see the extreme. He still didn't apologize, but just said coldly, "That's the case with Shenghua. If you can't accept it, don't come." This finally angered everyone, and even some valuable students were dissatisfied, and they felt that this approach was too serious. The school leader was forced to put pressure on the scene to conduct an investigation of the Zhaopen and promised to re-audify all students' achievements to ensure fairness. After the discussion competition, I stood in the audience, and my whole person seemed to be exhausted, and I felt unprecedentedly relaxed. Su Shaoqing hugged me and her eyes almost fell down. "Ruoxi, you are so great. I knew you could do it." I smiled and patted her on the back. "Thank you, Shaoqing. I can't do this without you helping me." At this time, Gu Chenfeng left, but he was still indifferent, but there was a different feeling in his eyes. He said in a low voice, "Lin Ruoxi, you are more courageous than I thought. I didn't want to care about this, but I don't like to see unfair things happening. If you have any trouble in the future, you can find me." I was stunned for a moment, but I didn't expect him to say this. "I was busy, thank you. If you hadn't stood up today, things might not have been so smooth." He didn't say anything more, just clicked a little and turned away. Looking at his back, I felt indescribable in my heart, as if I had found an unexpected ally. A few days later, the school announced the results after the reauthorization, and my name suddenly appeared on the list of elite classes. When I walked into the classroom of the elite class, the precious students who had ridiculed me had a lot of awe in their eyes. No one dared to say that I was a special admission anymore. I know that this is just the beginning. The level wall skeleton of Santa Claus has not been completely broken, but I at least took the first step. After school that day, Su Shaoqing and I were walking on the campus path, with the sunset on our body warm. She smiled and said, "Ruoxi, you are now a wind figure in Santa Claus. I heard that even senior students are discussing you, saying that you are a legend." "I don't care, it's strange, I don't care." I smiled and looked at the teaching building far away. I just want to prove that civilian students can also keep their feet at this station. As long as they work hard, nothing is impossible. Su Shaoqing glanced a little and held my arm. "Then let's continue to work hard next. Maybe one day we can really change the old rules of Shenhua." I smiled and said nothing, and a fire broke out in my heart. The water in Santa Chua is indeed very deep, but I am not afraid. No matter what challenges there are in the future, I will continue step by step until I really change it.